our last and final music class of the school year. We made it. Today, I'd like to share with you a little bit of information about what you've been listening to in terms of who's making the music, because that's really important. Now, when I choose what music I'm going to use for you, I only want you to hear the best. And we have been listening to a recording that is considered by most people the best recording of the Four Seasons that was ever done. And the reason why was just as Vivaldi was a violin virtuoso, these four of the greatest violin virtuosos of all time were part of this recording. And they were led by another virtuoso, their conductor, who I'll introduce to you in a moment. So here's the little story at its beginning. Once upon a time, about 20 some years ago, one of the world's greatest conductors, Zubin Mehta, was asked to stage a performance of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Now, Zubin Mehta was a world-renowned conductor, and he also had been the conductor of our own LA Philharmonic. So Zubin Mehta said, I could do that, but I want to invite a few friends to participate with me. And this is what the result was. If you look at this picture, the first virtuoso is Pinchas Zukerman. The next is Isaac Stern. The next virtuoso is Itzhak Perlman. And the final violin virtuoso is Shlomo Mintz. And of course, they were all brought together by that amazing conductor, Zubin Mehta. Because when Zubin Mehta calls you on the phone and says, hey guys, you want to do a concert? Of course, they're going to say yes. And that's exactly what happened. And so this recording that we've been listening to is made. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit of special stories about two of the violinists. And the first, and I actually have a personal connection to both of them. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is Isaac Stern. Now, he was the man who was making the birds chirp in spring. And here you see Isaac Stern, and he's playing the violin with Elmo, because Isaac Stern appeared on Sesame Street many, many times. Isaac Stern didn't just play amazing music. He was one of the few virtuoso teachers who would teach kids, because he believed that we had to get ready for our future. And when people like him weren't around anymore, there would be somebody else to take over. So Isaac Stern taught for many years. And Isaac Stern also saved an incredible American iconic building. There's a place in New York City called Carnegie Hall. And only, again, the best of the best get to perform at Carnegie Hall. But about 15 years ago, Carnegie Hall was crumbling. It was in bad shape. And nobody was doing anything about it. And Isaac Stern said, hey, we need to protect this building. This is so famous. Every great virtuoso in the music world has performed here. So Isaac Stern not only pledged his own money, but he went out and he put together a whole group of people to save and refurbish and rehab Carnegie Hall back to this gleaming, beautiful place where you can go and have music. Isaac Stern cared, and he cared about music, and he cared about the future of music. And this remarkable man, my connection to him is that on my 27th birthday, we had a concert, and I was the orchestra manager at that point, and the concert was on a thunderstorm, raging, awful night, and he was late because of the traffic, and I was grumpy because it was my birthday. And after the concert was over, he heard several of the musicians wishing me a happy birthday, and he stopped and he said, "Wait, it's your birthday?" And I said, "Yes, Mr. Stern, it's my birthday." And so he picked up his violin and he started playing Happy Birthday to me on his violin. And I have to tell you, it was one of the greatest moments of my life that this incredible international musician would care enough to play Happy Birthday to me on his violin. So, Itzhak Stern. Sadly, we lost him. He passed away several years ago, but he leaves an incredible legacy for all of us. Now, the next virtuoso is considered by most people to be the greatest violinist in the world. And his name is Itzhak Perlman. When he was 4 years old and living in Israel, Itzhak Perlman caught a disease called polio, and it left his legs paralyzed. And polio is a disease that fortunately, boys and girls, you don't have to worry about anymore, because some wonderful doctors, including a scientist by the name of Dr. Jonas Salk, created a vaccine for polio. So we don't have it anymore. But when Itzhak Perlman was a young boy of 4, there was no vaccine. Now, you can imagine at 4 years old, suddenly you can't walk, you can't run, you can't play t-ball or foursquare or any of those games that you all take for granted. Itzhak Perlman could have sat around feeling sorry for himself, but his mother brought home a bunch of instruments for him to try. And he picked up the violin, and it was magic, and he never looked back. And instead of feeling sorry for himself, he practiced, and he worked, and he learned, and he became, again, one of the greatest violinists in the world. His family brought him to this country when he was 10 years old to study at the #1 music school in the country, the Juilliard School of Music. And later, he was featured on television shows. He's played in movies. He's taught. He's done concerts. He and his wife started a music school in New York City for talented string players from 12 to 18, just so they could learn with incredible people. Itzhak Perlman has been on Sesame Street, I can't count as many times. And he loves music of all kinds. And he loves baseball. And he lives in New York City. And we're going to take a look at the picture again, because here is Itzhak Perlman. He is in a wheelchair, but he is going to play the national anthem for the start of a New York Mets baseball game. And so, when we listen to Winter, and you heard that bully wind Boreas causing all sorts of problems and so forth, and that chilly, icy wind, that was Itzhak Perlman playing Winter when the world turns upside down. Now you know who he is. And he's just an incredible individual. As I said, he plays movies, he plays jazz, he plays popular music. He just plays it all. He loves it, and nothing stops him. Now, it's one thing for you to get to listen to all these wonderful seasons of VIvaldi, and you did a great job figuring out this. And I'm going to share with you one more story about Itzhak Perlman, because I sort of got lost a little bit, so I'm sorry. But before I got married, I moved to California, and after before Itzhak Stern played Happy Birthday to Me, I worked for a great orchestra called the Pittsburgh Symphony. And Itzhak Perlman was great friends with the conductor of that orchestra. And they would often record concerts together. And both of them love jazz music, so I remember that they decided to do an album called A Different Kind of Jazz. And during those recording sessions, because I was working there, I had an opportunity to meet Itzhak Perlman on several occasions. He is one of the nicest, kindest, funniest people you will ever meet. He loves to tell jokes. And there were many times when he had the orchestra and all of us laughing so hard we couldn't work. We had to stop because he just made everybody laugh. So I'll tell you one of his favorite jokes really quickly. You all remember, I hope, one of Beethoven's themes. Well, Itzhak Perlman loves to tell a joke this way. That at one point, Ludwig van Beethoven was going through a pretty rough patch of time and didn't have a lot of money. And he lived in an apartment in Vienna. And one day his landlady knocked at the door. "Mr. Beethoven, you owe me for 3 months' rent. You haven't paid me, and you owe me that money." And Ludwig van Beethoven said, "Oh, I am so sorry. I'm working on it. I'm writing a new symphony. And when I'm finished, I should have a lot of money, and then I'll be able to pay you all the rent. And my dear landlady, if you can just wait, give me a little bit longer, you could be the inspiration for my symphony." And the landlady looked at him and said, "Ah, me? The inspiration for your symphony? Ha, 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 ha." I hope you got that joke. Anyway, as we've been listening to this wonderful music, it's one thing to hear it, and it's one thing to actually see somebody perform it. Unfortunately, they did not video record the concert with our 4 virtuosi. That's the plural of virtuoso. But I've sent a link to your parents where you can watch a young woman, because girls, I want you to know, women play hugely important parts in music, and there are women virtuosi as well as men. And you can watch it on YouTube and watch the autumn, the fall season being performed. And you can do the last step, which is to color your beautiful trees to go with fall. So, boys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed this look into some of our greatest players of all time in music history. I hope that it's inspired you. Maybe you want to check out some more music. And I wish you a safe, wonderful, magical, musical summer. Bye.